early morning fresh air, and crocodiles, and garden picnics. Not together, obviously. Others will say it's the silence, in our caves, in our bushland, that moment just before your drink is poured. Some say a must is a selfie with a cow. Oh, and there's those who wax lyrically about Rockhampton's iconic heritage, frontier town to bustling river port to gold rush city. And of special significance, the cultural heart of our city that beats to the sounds of the traditional custodians of the land, the Dalrymple people. All to come together to represent the foundation that Rockhampton and Queensland was built on. Strength, character, personality. No matter what your age, whatever the occasion, fireside or five-star, feeling the grass between your toes or the fresh mountain air on your face, you'll never be bored, because we never are. Open your eyes to Rockhampton. Every day, we close our eyes and pretend we're standing on top of the world, looking down on a playground of everything we've ever wanted. Then we open our eyes and realise it's where we live and where you'll want to be. This is Rockhampton. So, where do we start? It depends on who you ask. Some will tell you that if your fishing cast is big enough, you could catch a barra from your hotel balcony. A mum or dad will say it's a cooling swim and bike rides in the early morning fresh air, and crocodiles and garden picnics. Not together, obviously. Others will say it's the silence, in our caves, in our bushland, that moment just before your drink is poured. Some say a must is a selfie with a cow. Oh, and there's those who wax lyrically about Rockhampton's iconic heritage, frontier town to bustling river port to gold rush city. And of special significance, the cultural heart of our city that beats to the sounds of the traditional custodians of the land, the Dalrymple people. All to come together to represent the foundation that Rockhampton and Queensland was built on. Strength, character, personality. No matter what your age, whatever the occasion, fireside or five-star, feeling the grass between your toes or the fresh mountain air on your face, you'll never be bored, because we never are. Open your eyes to Rockhampton. Every day, we close our eyes and pretend we're standing on top of the world, looking down on a playground of everything we've ever wanted. Then we open our eyes and realise it's where we live and where you'll want to be. This is Rockhampton. So, where do we start? It depends on who you ask. Some will tell you that if your fishing cast is big enough, you could catch a barra from your hotel balcony. A mum or dad will say it's a cooling swim and bike rides in the early morning fresh air, and crocodiles and garden picnics. Not together, obviously. Others will say it's the silence, in our caves, in our bushland, and that moment just before your drink is poured. Some say a must is a selfie with a cow. Oh, and there's those who wax lyrically about Rockhampton's iconic heritage, frontier town to bustling river port to gold rush city. And of special significance, the cultural heart of our city that beats to the sounds of the traditional custodians of the land, the Dalrymple people. All to come together to represent the foundation that Rockhampton and Queensland was built on. Strength, character, personality. No matter what your age, whatever the occasion, fireside or five-star, feeling the grass between your toes or the fresh mountain air on your face. You'll never be bored, because we never are. Open your eyes to Rockhampton. Every day, we close our eyes and pretend we're standing on top of the world, looking down on a playground of everything we've ever wanted. Then we open our eyes and realise it's where we live and where you'll want to be. This is Rockhampton. So, where do we start? It depends on who you ask. Some will tell you that if your fishing cast is big enough, you could catch a barra from your hotel balcony. A mum or dad will say it's a cooling swim and bike rides in the early morning fresh air, and crocodiles and garden picnics. Not together, obviously. Others will say it's the silence, in our caves, in our bushland, and that moment just before your drink is poured. Some say a must is a selfie with a cow. Oh, and there's those who wax lyrically about Rockhampton's iconic heritage, frontier town to bustling river port to gold rush city. And of special significance, the cultural heart of our city that beats to the sounds of the traditional custodians of the land, the Dalrymple people. All to come together to represent the foundation that Rockhampton and Queensland was built on. Strength, character, personality. No matter what your age, Whatever the occasion, fireside or five-star, feeling the grass between your toes or the fresh mountain air on your face. You'll never be bored, because we never are. Open your eyes to Rockhampton.
Good morning, councillors, ladies and gentlemen, and the public, to our first Ordinary Council meeting for 2024 and the term of this council. Firstly, I'd like to begin with acknowledgement to country and acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land in which we meet, the Darumbal people, and pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. Also acknowledging our neighbouring Aboriginal peoples within our local government area, the Gungaloo Nation people, the Barada, Cabelbarra and Yeddamarala people. Also acknowledging the Torres Strait Islander peoples whose lands are in the Torres Straits but who live and work on Aboriginal land. And I'd have the pleasure in inviting Bishop Michael McCarthy from the Catholic Diocese of Rockhampton to give us our first blessing for this term of the council. Good morning.
Good morning, councillors. It is indeed a pleasure to pray for you, pray with you, and to pray for our people. So we gather at the beginning of a new term of the councillors of the Rockhampton Regional Council, recently elected by their fellow citizens. Remember the people whom we serve, the citizens of our region who place their confidence in these your councillors. Fill our councillors with the spirit of listening to the citizens, discern with them the courage, the needs of the community of the region of Rockhampton. Give our councillors the gift of patience to serve the citizens as they work together for Rockhampton and for its region, from the Gogango Ranges to the seaport of Port Alma, including the rich mineral town of Mount Morgan, and following the great river Fitzroy, flowing through the farmlands and providing and giving water for its citizens as it flows through the great city of Rockhampton. Remember those who have tended this land for generations and for centuries, and whose elders that we acknowledge. Heavenly Father, may your blessing come upon these councillors of our council, as you be their strength, be their guide in all their decisions, and your peace as they make difficult choices for the common good of all. May your blessings come upon their families as they gift the community with many hours of service to the community. And may your blessing come upon the citizens who are cared for by the Rockhampton Regional Council. And finally, one little prayer, not a big one, out of this book. Send down your blessings upon these your councillors, who so generously devote themselves to helping others. When they are called on in times of need, let them be faithful and serve you in their neighbour. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. May God's richest blessings come upon you as you begin a new term of office, and thank you for being our councillors here in the Rockhampton region.
Thank you very much, Bishop
God
Michael.
bless you all.
Thank you very much for that kind blessing.
Happy meetings.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, councillors, we move straight into our council business. We have a full complement. Confirmation of the previous minutes that from the ordinary council meeting the 5th of March 2024 be confirmed. Could I have a mover and a seconder with regards to that, please? Move Deputy Mayor Councillor Wickerson, seconded Councillor Fisher. Put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Further recommendation that the minutes from the post-election statutory council meeting of the 27th of March be confirmed. Again, seek a mover and a seconder with regards to those minutes. Moved Councillor Mathers, seconded Councillor Fisher. Put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. We move on now to declarations of interest in matters on the agenda, councillors. We haven't had any reported, but please, if there is something that arises throughout the course of the meeting or at any time, please inform the table and we can record that at that point. But if there's none, then we'll move on to business outstanding, nil. Public forums, deputations, nil. Presentations of petitions, nil. Committee reports, nil. Councillor delegate reports, nil. Leads us straight into our officers' reports. 11.1, sponsorship opportunity for Capricornia Combined Schools Industry Breakfast, and I'll invite Wade to present his report. Good morning, Wade.
Good morning, Mayor and Councillors. Today I present two reports to the Council for consideration. The first report is the sponsorship opportunity for the Capricornia Combined Schools Industry Breakfast. Late last year, Advanced Rockhampton was approached by a consortium of different high schools indicating that they would like to progress forward with an industry-focused breakfast. This focuses around pulling together industry and high schools, looking at how do we create more effective pathways for our students to move into employment in the future. Considering, I suppose, it's a good economic problem to have a low unemployment rate at the present moment in time, we've also got a lot of industry that is requesting further people to come along to the Rockhampton region. And then also we've got some major projects that have been implemented, like the Rockhampton Ring Road, amongst others. Looking at the Rockhampton Region Economic Action Plan, we've got a key sort of pillar within that, which is around collaboration. And Advanced Rockhampton sees this opportunity here with the local high schools and to bring industry together as an important part to assist that collaboration and greater employment outcomes. The officer's recommendation is that Council sponsors the Capricornia Combined Schools Industry Breakfast to be held on the 29th of May at a cost of $5,000 inclusive of GST. Happy to take questions, Mayor.
Thanks very much, Wade. Councillors, normally pretty free-flowing with the questions. Just mindful that if the questions to the officers lead into debate, then we need to refrain those questions and keep those until we get into the voting area. Trying not to be too constrained and really allow councillors to ask the questions of reports, and then we move into debate should it be needed. So I'm sure we'll all be able to understand that as we work forward, but with the new councillors, just please ask any questions at that time. And direct them through the chair, sorry. Yeah, that's the other point, just to ask them through the chair to the officers. Councillor Deputy Mayor Wickerson.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Through you to Wade. I noticed, Wade, in the letter back to us from the education area, they talk about co-branding, which is great. We get a bit of a promotion.
Yes.
Very happy for Advanced Rockhampton to be one of the co-branders, but also Rockhampton Regional Council. This has come up before, so in together, so people realise what council does as well. But very happy to give Advanced Rockhampton the leg up.
Thank you very much through the chair, Deputy Mayor. Is that we'll ensure that the council logo is also there with the Advanced Rockhampton logo in all of the marketing materials that are to go out.
Further questions, councillors? Councillor Rutherford.
Mr Mayor, not a question, because I like the space that we're playing in here, but I'm just wondering whether we can have some feedback once this breakfast has happened about what the outcome has actually been, so that we can see that we're hitting the right mark with this. I think definitely there's a need to be able to connect industry with our schools, so I can see that. So I would like some feedback to see how things are going.
No, it's a good point, councillor, and it is great as Wade's mentioned the low unemployment rate. This is a space we haven't been in previously. We've always had high unemployment and always a lineup of people wanting to experience those jobs. So this is a great pathway leading into that. So I think it's only prudent that we do a debrief or get some updated information after that event, because I'm sure this cohort that go through this year would be looking at future students in the years to come to do something similar. Councillor Mathers.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through you to Wade, if that's all right. Wade, I just wanted to say just a comment actually, and it's just I'm happy to support anything that connects our industry to our schools and helps younger people come up and even older people to stay here in Rockhampton, find the jobs that they need and keep moving forward. So I really like the way we're connecting not only the schools but the university, TAFE being involved in that type of thing as well. So congratulations on it.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor. Through the chair.
Thanks very much, Councillor Mathers. Councillor, if there's no further questions, I'm happy to move as recommended as the portfolio for economic development. Seek a seconder. Seconded Councillor Rutherford. No further questions. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, Wade. Oh, let's move. Couldn't see because of the TVs. Yeah, no, that's... need to move the furniture around, so that's it. Thanks, Councillor Rutherford. Leave it straight on to the second item, 11.2, sponsorship opportunity for the Bowen Basin Mining Club, September 24 luncheon. Again, Wade, thank you. Would you like to present the report?
Yeah, the second report I delivered today is a sponsorship opportunity with the Bowen Basin Mining Club for September of this year. Traditionally is that Rockhampton Regional Council has sponsored the Bowen Basin Mining Club to be here in Rockhampton. We've done so after the last 4 years. This is an exceptionally important sponsorship for the Rockhampton region as we look to sort of increase our profile in the resources and mining sector as well. It is envisaged that with this particular sponsorship here, we're probably looking at around about 100 plus different mining organisations, but also a good opportunity for our MET sector, the mining, equipment, technology and services sector, to be engaged with miners and here in the Rockhampton region. In terms of the economic impact, is that the mining and resources sector there is supports around about 30% of the local economy as part of the Queensland Resources Council information that they put out on a yearly basis. So it's quite a significant sector for the Rockhampton region, and we look to sort of support that further and see how we can get more employment and also economic outcomes.
Thanks very much, Wade. Again, councillors, just information sharing. I met with the Gladstone Ports Corporation in some networking event and stakeholder engagement last week, and yeah, their plans for the met coal for the years to come is still very strong, and you know, it's a major port and the economic benefit that comes from that will lead you know, with the highway and what we've got here in our town and the our local economy, how much is indebted to the resource sector. Being part of that and this funding for this type of event is part of that promotion of the resource sector, and one there that we've been part of for a few years now, and one that's paying the benefits in the dividends. Councillor Latcham, question?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, just to comment on that, on this report. Yes, I do agree with you. Resource sector is very important to this region, and I've obviously been a very big active role playing, going up there and supporting it on behalf of council, and hopefully we'll continue that. The comment from the report, Wade, if I may, is it didn't mention last year's event in there, the one that was held at the Principal Sports Club, and did get a really good reception. That was on the Thursday, the 13th of July, and it's always a popular event when we hold it here. We only get one bite of the cherry from Bowen Basin Mining Club. The rest are in Mackay, but I know when we do it very well, and it's very well supported. Just wanted to mention that it was missing last year's event on it.
Yeah, so through the chair, my apologies, that's correct. It is very well attended, has been done so over the last 4 years. It's a really important opportunity for locals to be involved with the BBMC that might not be able to make that trip up to Mackay on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Councillors, any further questions to Wade on that report? Could I seek a mover in a second? Move Councillor Latcham, seconded Councillor Fisher. Put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously.
Thank you
very much, Wade. Council, we'll move on to item 11.3 and invite Emma to present that report. Good morning, Emma.
Good morning, Mayor and councillors. The report that I'm presenting today is the consultation outcome of the renaming of Blackchin Creek Road and Alton Downs. Last year we met with property owners to discuss alternate naming suggestions other than Dundula Creek Road, which is what the Department of Resources changed the creek name to in 2020. This consultation was to acknowledge and respect Darumble's request to change the road name, but also give the residents, some of whom have lived there for generations, an opportunity to express their suggestions also. 4 naming options were received late last year as a result of our meeting with them, and subsequently we then went back out to the residents for them to indicate their preference on the four names. 30 responses from 30 properties were received, with Gumtree Road being the preferred name. Gumtree Road also aligns with the naming of Dundula Creek, which means gum tree in Darumble language. It is suggested that we extend the name to include the word creek, so it reads as Gumtree Creek Road, and this would also differentiate it from Gumtree Avenue in Bouldercombe.
Okay, thanks very much, Emma. Councillors, any questions to this report? Councillor Rutherford?
Mr Mayor, not questions, but can I speak
yes,
to the report, please? Because I would particularly like to thank Emma for her work in this area. It's been a long journey to get to this point. We have certainly tried to cross every single bridge we could come to with consultation with that community. Once a decision is made today, we'll have a letter ready to go out to the residents of the road, advising of what the outcome of the consultation was, and also along with that a checklist to help them with their change of address, plus a pro forma letter that allows them just to send that on. There is no charge involved for change of address because you're not actually changing your address. The road is changing its name, so your address, your physical property stays the same. So with Australia Post, there's no fee involved in that. So we've tried to go down every single path. Emma has made phone calls where we couldn't get written correspondence back from people to make sure that everyone had the opportunity to have their say. Like everything, there's differing in opinions, but it's you know, the votes there, the numbers are there, and I would also like to thank the Darumble elders for the very respectful conversations that they've had around this as well. We did a fair bit of investigation on the history of Blackchin Creek Road, both Darumble history and the long-term residents that have lived there that have their own history. So we've tried to combine everything together, get as much information as we could, take it to both groups, and then this was the outcome. So huge amount of work that's gone in the background, and honestly, Emma has just been phenomenal in this space, so thank you to her.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Rutherford. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Wickerson.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just a comment as well. I think Councillor Rutherford is understating her role in this too, that alongside our great staff, Emma, these negotiations are very delicate and sensitive, and I think you've represented council well to your community up there to ease the way through that. And I know it hasn't all been plain sailing, so congratulations on that to the whole team.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Could I have a mover and a second? Councillor Rutherford, you like to move?
Yes, I'll move.
Councillor Rutherford, and seconded Councillor Wickerson. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you very much for that report, Emma, and congratulations on the work for that report. Well done. Council, we move on to 11.4, Summary Budget Management Report for the period ending 29th of February 2024, and invite Marnie to present her report, and good morning, Marnie.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and good morning, everybody. So this is a report for the February end of month, and in the next council meeting, so on the next meeting on the 23rd, we'll actually present the March one. We missed presenting any February report in the March period because of the meeting being so early in the month. So just to give a bit of an outline as to where we were sitting at the end of February, we should have been around the 66.7% of budget. And at that stage, operating revenue was sitting at 88% of the revised budget, due mainly to the levying of the rates and utility charges, which closed on the 6th of March. So that distorts the income or the revenue figures for that period. Private and recoverable works were at 77%, so they were above budget as well. Grants and subsidies were below budget, but due to timing of those grants and when they're received, and other income, mainly around the airport, was above budget at 75%. In terms of operating expenditure, it was sitting at 63% of the revised budget, so below budget at that time. We see that consultants and contractors are sitting at 55%, again a timing issue in terms of when the time of the work is performed and when we're paying for it. Asset operational expenses were sitting at 59%, such as electricity, which are billed quarterly and therefore timing changes, and admin expenses were below budget at 49%. In relation to our capital revenue, it was sitting at 56% of the revised budget, and that's due mainly to when grants and subsidies are received for those capital projects that we're performing, particularly in relation to that one is the Mount Morgan pipeline funds that we received earlier in the year. Capital expenditure was sitting at 50% at the end of February of the revised budget. So to put that into context, we were probably behind, or we are still behind in terms of our capital expenditure, which our revised budget was $143.9 million as adopted at the revised budget in December. We are seeing capital expenditure start to ramp up in particular projects. So we have seen on average around 11 to 13 million spent per month on capital projects, and I would think that we will see that move further as we get closer to the end of the financial year and some of those projects really hit full steam. But in saying that, we are also looking at what our carryover budget may need to be for those capital projects during this current budget revision process that we're going through. We'll provide some more updates to Council next Monday in relation to where our capital budget, or where our budget overall is sitting, and the assumptions around that. So that will be next Monday when we have that special meeting, that I'll provide you with some more detail in that space. But generally speaking, in terms of the 23-24 year, we're sitting relatively within budget. So probably the biggest alarm bells would be around the capital expenditure that we'll be focusing on as we move through the remaining quarter, effectively, of this financial year. So if there's any questions, happy to take them.
Thanks very much, Marnie. Again, it was a very ambitious capital works project because of these large projects that we have on the books, and yeah, like you say, that it's nearly a cut and paste with gain momentum on the capital spend, and hopefully we can achieve as much as we possibly can before the end of the financial year. So again, that workshop will allow for further details around those projects and where their stages they're at, so we can get a better understanding of the position of the capital budget going forward as we then start to think about our new budget for 2025. So that'll be a lot of work that the council will need to undertake now that the elections are over and we've moved out of that caretaker phase. We can really get an understanding about where our budget is going forward. Questions? Councillor Mathers.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. Through you to Marnie, if that's okay. Marnie, thanks very much for the report. I just noted on page 1 of 1 in the report the developers' contributions. I just can't recall over previous years of it being quite so low, 24%. I think it was $1.7 million of a budgeted 7.2. I think it was.
Yes.
Do we know the reasoning for that? Are we still just waiting for some more payments?
Well, it's Councillor Mathers through the chair. I guess it's tied to what development is happening and the timing of that development and when those contributions are payable or are due. We aren't necessarily achieving our developer contributions year on year, which is a issue for us as we consider how much capital works and trunk infrastructure we have to be doing in relation to those developments. So there is a gap there, and we acknowledge that. I mean, those targets, or I guess the budgets that we set are set annually. And whether there'll be some more movement, that's really, it's a bit of an unknown for us in terms of how that will move through the year, and we will keep an eye on it.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Mayor, just one more. Thanks, Marnie. Look, I figured that was probably the case. I just thought, you know, that's a big gap. I just can't recall seeing it that much, but that just shows you what's happening within the industry, I suppose. But so, to your knowledge at this stage, there's not significantly more contributions coming our way at this stage that you know of.
I can't really comment on that. Yeah. It's not really where I'm sort of sitting. Yeah, okay. That's probably more of a planning area. But in saying that, we do know that we're still looking at those bigger developments and we're still planning for those sorts of works and things like that. So particularly in our expenditure aspects, we've workshopped as a team, quite a few of us, closely what those trunk infrastructure impacts will be over the next few years and our expenditure patterns. So really the other side of that with the revenue is something that we obviously have to be focusing on as well as we spend that with those developments coming online.
Marnie, I completely understand it's crystal ball stuff and it's hard to nail that down. I just, you know, that's a big difference. So that's what I'll talk to the team about it and get their thoughts on it. Thanks for the report.
No problem.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Mathers. Councillors, any other questions through to Marnie? If not, I'm happy to move. Seek a seconder. Councillor Taylor. Put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thanks very much, Marnie. We'll move on to our next item, which is the 11.5, the Councillor Portfolio Policy, and invite Ross to present his report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just have the report here in front of our councillors to consider their portfolio policy and respective portfolios and councillors appointed to those portfolios. So I have nothing more to add, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to take any questions or
Councillors, questions on this? Councillor Rutherford.
Mr. Mayor, I did have a couple of questions, and it's around the 11.5, this item, and also the next item. There's nothing that really doesn't sit within this, but I'm just wondering whether we'd have the opportunity still to go through these now, but at our briefing session later, that we can have a little walk through these and just pick up some points. And, you know, I guess the general consensus when we discussed this last week is it's not working perfectly for us, and there's certainly ideas we'd like to bring to the table and discuss. But it's probably can sit a little bit outside these actual agenda items. But probably looking to you to see if we can.
More than happy to do that, Councillor. I think if I don't think we'll get a perfect system overall, but if we can start to strive towards getting councillors comfortable with their portfolios and how that information's provided, happy to talk about that and work to a solution for that.
And if I could just raise an example, Mr. Mayor, in sorry, I just need to scroll. So 5.1.1 under C, it says that councillors should maintain a focus on strategic issues relevant to their portfolio rather than day-to-day operational matters. In theory, that's all not a problem, but then when we go down to 5.2.1D, being accountable to the community for the local government's performance, well, you can't be accountable if you don't know the operational.
And I've picked that up at after the last term, how there's that separation from operational and strategic, and how we can better understand the operation. And I've spoken to Evan, and that's part about looking at another two committees or two advisory groups that can get that better understanding and answer those questions. So nothing's locked in concrete. We can always change as we go through as well. These are only policies. They're not. We can always change them at a later date if we need to look to get better information. Yes, Ross.
Through Mr. Mayor, I'm just following on from that, and even the next item, we may get a bit more discussion in that space as well. That might help. Yeah, but certainly do what you're saying. But
through the chair, Ross, that's what I'm saying, so that it's this one and the next one that I think we need to look at as an entirety, but maybe, you know, this afternoon or tomorrow afternoon or something, and just, yeah, deal with this as it is now.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wickerson?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Probably just two comments. In our workshopping for this, and it's not reflected in this list here, community assets and facilities at the moment straddles between the parks part of communities and communities and heritage, which is mine, which leads to some confusion about, you know, with the media going out on it, even with discussions amongst officers, who's the spokesperson in the role. So I think in our discussions we talked about maybe clarifying that and putting it all with parks, as most of the assets seem to sit with a park in some form or another. So just to formalise that would be cleaner, unless there's some objection from councillors or...
No, it has logic if there is that crossover there, and you know, it's not sitting in the right space. Then yeah, happy to look at that.
It just makes it clear. And the second one, Mayor, again, we probably need to talk about this some more, but the one that's not on the list also is environment and sustainability. You know, we've probably got some more discussions around that, but when we first set that up, I think the idea was not to embed it with any area of council, because we wanted it to umbrella the whole thing, a bit like workplace health and safety. It's everyone's responsibility. The minute you pigeonhole it with any unit of council, maybe some other areas, oh, well, that's not our business anymore. So we've got a really good environment sustainability leadership team, and representatives from every part of council come together with our environment team and work out how each part of council can do their bit for it. So I like that setup, but we need to probably define where that sits, whether it's in your office or somewhere, but it probably needs to have someone that can speak on its behalf.
Yeah. Again, again, we can still work on that as we go forward. I think the table of contents around what the portfolio requirements are, we can always look to change that across if that's the case, if there's overlaps and double ups in areas as well. But it's understanding the broad range of responsibilities of the portfolio councillors, and are really looking to lean heavily on your portfolios and your experience in this next term to give us that feedback, so we're working as a team and can deliver the best for our community going forwards, because there are some challenges in the years ahead, but I'm sure we're capable of dealing with those, and the portfolio councillors will be better gained to gain that knowledge and then express that to the councillors, so we're all familiar with what's happening in the organisation. Okay, councillor, if there are no further questions on that report, can I have a mover and a seconder? Move Councillor Oram, seconded Deputy Mayor Councillor Wickerson. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Ross will ask to present the next report, 11.6, to council committees. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Following on from the previous item, we have got a draft report there for the committees, based largely around previously what had been done. However, one of the key parts I have added in there is about our capital project framework draft policy that was discussed briefly with the previous council, but it will form a important part of these two committees. Mr. Mayor, I've also had some feedback, I suppose, from councillors since this item was put out there. I've had some good feedback, actually, with some suggestions, and one of the things which Councillor Rutherford alluded to before about we can talk in our briefing sessions, but it is bringing more prominence to the portfolios through those agendas, the structure of the agendas, and in particular, potentially each portfolio council presenting at those committee meetings for their portfolio, what's been happening in the previous month. And it's just a simple change to the terms of reference that we can make that change, to make those changes. So that was just, but happy to either alter the recommendation here to make that change, or we can talk later. It's up to council how they want to proceed it. Terms of reference can be changed any time.
Yeah, I think rather than doing it on the run, we should do the workshop and then come back and change the terms of reference once everyone is clear about what those opportunities are. And I understand that, and I think it puts more onus back onto the portfolio chair to be spokesperson to be able to present their their portfolio for the month and what's happening in that space, so we can answer and ask questions at that time as well. So great changes. I think it's about having an understanding about the organisation and what's happening in that space. So we might leave it at this point, but then change it as we after we do that workshop. But understanding that we do want to have a look at that change. Yep. Councillors, questions? Councillor Rutherford.
Sorry, so are you laying this on the table now, or are we?
So we can adopt it now, have the discussions either today or tomorrow, and then if need be, we can bring it back and amend the terms of reference from there.
I'd suggest we bring it back at the nearest possible meeting to amend the terms of reference. I think
there's some mechanics behind the scenes to actually put things in place to start reporting through the resource.
Okay.
Technical sides of it through that.
And rather than do it on the run today, if we adopt this and then we have the workshop and then we can get a consensus on where we're going and then come back with a change in the terms of reference. Councillor Rutherford.
So, Mr. Mayor, if we're adopting this today, can I just, in the community's terms of reference, it's got parks management, including botanic gardens, commercial gardens, and cemeteries. Cemeteries actually sits with communities, not with parks. So I think that needs to be
Just through the chair. Oh, through the chair. This is just for the communities at the actual committee has cemeteries.
Yes,
It's not a.
Ross, it is page 40 on the agenda.
Yeah.
And it's just the terms of reference for the communities committee, and it's got all dot points of the different things. And I was just concerned that if parks management goes botanic gardens, commercial gardens, and cemeteries, that's not quite correct because cemetery sits on its own.
Okay.
It should be a dot point.
Gotcha. Sorry,
of
sorry,
its
Mr.
own.
Mayor. Yep. Sorry,
Yeah.
mine missed something. Okay, we'll fix that. Yep.
So we don't need to change that today. We can do that at the next
Yeah,
one, or
we'll
do you
that
want to change?
when we do the terms of reference. I've got a note and we'll change that.
Okay. Righto. Okay. Councillor, any further questions on that one? I'm happy to move. Seek a seconder. Councillor Mathers. Put that. Those in favour. Those opposed. Motion's carried unanimously. Thanks very much, Ross. Move into the next one, organisation, appointment of the representatives on council external groups. So, Ross.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You all right, Ross? Did you?
Sorry, okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm presenting this council representatives report. There will be, I think the next meeting, there will be a couple more come through. There's a few more not quite on the list, so we'll bring that back with the complete list as well. So, yeah, these are recommended for consideration, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Fisher.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, could we have the LawMac, the Local Authority Waste Management Action Committee, dealt with separately?
Okay. Exclude that one. Yep. And probably just a question Councillor Mather asked about the local disaster management group. We do have a proxy, so to speak, as in the Deputy Mayor on that one, but I believe the training for extended to all councillors with regards to local disaster management can fit in that space. Does that cover that question?
Mr. Mayor, yeah, look, that's fine. I was just hoping that after, that I'd put forward that I was interested in that. I just wanted something on the record that I had shown interest in, in that committee.
That's good. And we can always have observers in times when we do have activations and things like that. We've been able to do that in that time, but that's, I think, the structure that we've got with having a deputy mayor in the role as a deputy, it really does cover off as a proxy in that space. So.
And Mr. Mayor, I've got no problem at all with the deputy mayor being in that position. All I was thinking was if he was away doing something, or if you had to be sent down south, you know, on council business, if you needed someone else to come along, I'm there.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Oram. Sorry, you just turned... Mike, there you go, you got it.
Yeah. Mr Mayor, I'm actually happy to take myself off as proxy for the Capricorn Pest Management Group. With the rest of the organisations, I'm happy with what I've got.
Got a fair bit on there, yeah. Okay, no, that's fine. Thank you. Councillor Wickerson.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. One that's not on there that had been in the past is the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority. I think it was Advisory Committee or something. That's tied in with environment sustainability, so maybe to come back and revisit that when we sort that out. I think council has a MOU with that group that we had representation on it. We've done lots of work through our Christine's team, so we need to.
That's still one to be decided, or one that we come back on. They're not we're not doing them. It's just we working on these ones to get the ball rolling, so to speak.
Yeah, we've got, that one's coming back, and I think it's through the chair, and I think Peter's got one that's got to come back, and I think there might be one more, Alicia, that's coming back as well. So there's a couple that will come back with the complete list next meeting or the meeting after.
Right. Any further questions on those, councillors? Looks like again a really heavy workload, and even from myself, I wanted to look at other organisations outside the local groups as well. So I'm going to rely heavily on my team of councillors to work in these spaces as well, to again represent our community to the best of our ability. So it's all everyone's really eager and keen to put their hands up. So that's good to see. Okay, councillors, could I have a mover and a seconder that we receive those appointments? Move Deputy Mayor Councillor Wickerson, second Councillor Mathers. I'll put that. Those in favour. Those opposed. Motion's carried unanimously. And now that we deal with the LawMac representatives, would you like to suspend standing orders?
We suspend standing orders and...
Happy to do that. You need a seconder? Seconder for that? I'm happy to second. Councillor Fisher, and I'm happy to second. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried. Floor is open. Councillor Fisher.
Okay, well, if I may, Mr Mayor, if I can start. I'd like to state my case to remain as the Rockhampton Regional Council's voting member for LawMac, and to say that I've been an active member of LawMac even before Central Queensland was added to the LawMac region. And LawMac has, in the last 4 years, I have been the chairman of LawMac, and this is something that I have taken very seriously, and also looking at the positioning of LawMac, where it itself now is a peak body for waste, for zero waste, and beyond the waste future as Queensland develops a more circular economy. And this is evident in the growing membership, particularly with state and federal government attendances and collaboration at these meetings. And there's been many things there that we have been working on in LawMac, and that includes the lithium-ion batteries and their risk to landfills, waste facilities and collection trucks. And this is having an impact on our own council budget, but actually council budgets throughout regional Queensland. Also, the various operational levy matters are facing the larger regional councils, and this is something that is going to have an impact that we need to be at the government table in stating our case. The regional waste plans have also been something of quite a bit of work, and these include the First Nations regional waste plans, which are actually achieving something that probably we've never had within Queensland. The recycling precincts are another part. Recycling enterprise precincts are also a very important part of developing a future that's beyond just waste. Waste is not something we dig a hole in the ground and bury it now. waste is a resource. Waste is something there that we've got to look at how that can actually be not a burden to our community, but actually can come back to being a benefit. And then probably the product stewardship, and this is one that is going to need quite amount of working with, because some of the product stewardship at this stage doesn't suit regional Australia. In fact, there are a number of areas there that we have got to work more seriously with. Now, what I'm asking Council is to support me to be the voting member for Lawmac, and probably would like to ask for the voting member up till the Management Committee meeting in June, which is still within Lawmac, that is still the existing elected members from the last term hold that position until that annual general meeting. But what's happened is the new constitution has also sort of seen a change in who represents and how they are represented. So once on the previous committee that I chaired, it actually had a member from each of the regions. And it was now at the floor of the meeting a president, a vice president, a treasurer, and 3 current councillors from member local governments within the whole Lawmac footprint. So that is from Central Queensland, of councils from Gladstone, Banana Shire in the south, to Barcaldine in the west, right through to Torres Strait Island in the north. Now, this is a reduction of the elected members from the Lawmac Management Committee of the past. So what I would like to put as a proposal is that I would still like to become chair of Lawmac for the next 2 years, but I would like the support to actually from the council to the annual general meeting, and if I was unsuccessful in becoming chairman, I would leave that role and then pass that to Councillor Latcham. Now, this would mean that Rockhampton is guaranteed a voice at the table. The existing executive, almost all except Sean Dillon, who didn't run for council, and Russ Cook, who was defeated in Townsville. All the other existing executive were actually returned at this council election. So at this stage, it will probably be the election of the management committee will be actually those same members that would go across. And so this is why I'm really believe that if I could be the Lawmac voting rights member and come back to the table after the June meeting, if I'm not successful in becoming the chair of Lawmac, then council, we would have to then change the voting rights to Councillor Latcham, who was at the moment is an attending member of Lawmac. This would make sure that those very, very important parts of Lawmac that we still have a voice. And we've been very, very fortunate because it's not just a dominance of Far North Queensland. Having a voice at the table has been very, very important. So I'm asking council to actually support me being the voting rights councillor on Lawmac. Firstly, to the following the June annual general meeting, and if successful, being chairman to follow on, so be it retained. But if I was not successful in being the Lawmac chairman, I would step back and allow for Councillor Latcham to become the voting rights member of Lawmac. And that way there we are still at a point where we got a very strong voice for the future. So that's what I'm pleading and would like to ask council support in that particular role. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Fisher. Councillor Latcham.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, just to state the case that Lawmac has always sat underneath one of the responsibilities of the Waste and Recycling Manager. In 2020, when I was appointed to that group and we talked about Lawmac at the meeting that was held at the Pilbeam Theatre, Councillor Fisher did mention that he would bow out once the structure was put in place. That structure has been put in place now, and I wasn't afforded the opportunity to be the voting person on that committee. Yes, I attended every single committee meeting for those 4 years, but was never afforded the opportunity to be on the executive, and of which we would get the same representation. So I just would like your support that this would still sit under Waste and Recycling, and that I would be the voting delegate on this committee. So thank you.
Councillors, further questions? Councillor Taylor.
Just through the chair, just a question for you, Councillor Fisher. So if you did continue on and you did remain in the chair and you had an opportunity for 2 more years, after those 2 years, would you be vacating that seat? Do you think that in that period of time that you've had in that position, that you've achieved whatever you've needed to achieve as a chair?
Councillor Taylor, that's a very good question, because the last 4 years we have undergone a very massive repositioning of Lawmac. So instead of just being a subcommittee of a Northern Alliance of councils and its various name changes, we are now a peak body in its own name, and we've still got some alterations and changes. But I see your point, and I think that that is very fair. I would like to think that my opportunity as chairman was to have Lawmac in a position where it is not only working with the state government, but where now we've got the state government talking policy before it's even been legislated. And I'd like to sort of think that we could tidy those areas up. So I'd like to think that 2 years we could actually sit back and say Lawmac is in a very strong place, and that Rockhampton region has played a major role in doing that. Does that answer your question?
Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, through the chair, I just wanted to clarify, if you get re-elected in June,
Yep.
and you do another 2 years, after those 2 years, will you no longer put your hand up to be chair? Just, do you think 2 years is enough? And then after those 2 years, that you will no longer nominate yourself or be nominated to be elected again for a further 2 years?
Actually, I think I could probably make that commitment. I'll just talk about the existing executive who will most likely come through. The vice chair is a councillor from Cairns who actually comes is not a waste manager, not a waste chair. He actually comes from the governance portfolio area in Cairns Regional Council. I think he would be more than capable of taking over as chair of LAWMAC, and I always sort of stated that if I wasn't chair, I would stand back, and I would be happy to do that within the 2 years. Our treasurer is a councillor from Mackay Regional Council. She's actually in the budget and social sector side. That's her portfolio area on council. So again, you'd have that transition. Our other councillors, the Deputy Mayor of Banana Shire Council, again, I think there would be the stability that if we were to reach those 2 years, that LAWMAC would be in a very strong position, and that we would be able to sit back and say, Rockhampton Regional Council, Central Queensland, the LAWMAC constitution, the LAWMAC focus, and where we move into the future would actually be such a way that we're not left on the sidelines, that we are front and centre. So I think that commitment could be really made. Firstly, there would be to see at June this year if the LAWMAC committee would elect me from the floor. That would be the first hurdle. And then what you were saying is, would I step down in 2 years' time? And I'd probably be quite happy to move that. That has been previous chairs have done that mid-term, which allows that. So I think that would be something that would be workable.
Councillor Latcham.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Two things out of that. One, the LAWMAC's already in a strong position already. It's been kicking goals for the last 4 years. It's moving from strength to strength to strength. It's not going to happen in 2 years' time. It's there now. We've already got the strength now, strength in numbers, strength in support with all our members that turn up. The second part is that key word Councillor Fisher used, which was probably. And that's that same word we heard 4 years ago, that he would bow out. Probably isn't a yes or a no answer. It's, we'll see how it goes.
Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, through the chair, I just don't think that you're making a clear point that if in 2 years you will no longer be putting your hand up for president.
Maybe it's that the after 2 years, do you want me to actually state to the council that I would?
Yeah. If it's in the resolution, then it's concrete. Further.
I would put the resolution that I would be the council representative on LAWMAC for the next 2 years, and put that in that resolution. Would that be?
No, that if.
Yep.
Sorry, through the chair, that if come June you were elected again, and you served 2 years, that when in those 2 years, in 2026, that you would not put your hand up again to be president. That at that time, Councillor Latcham would be the voting member of LAWMAC.
I'd accept that, and I'd be happy to have that in the resolution of this. That Councillor Fisher be appointed to represent Rockhampton Regional Council for a period.
We've just got some further questions.
Oh, sorry.
Councillor Rutherford.
Thank you. I'm struggling a little to understand how this operates, and it really sort of puzzles me how an organisation can have 29 council members, but those members don't get a vote. How does that happen?
Or the committees, the LAWMAC itself, every council has a voting member. This is, then we have our management committee, and that is selected from the floor. of the Lawmac meeting. And that on that floor is where you have the 6 elected councillors and also the 4 technical officers. And so they meet not just at the Lawmac meetings 4 times a year. These councillors are actually the ones that probably we've been meeting at least by teams every month, maybe twice a month, and just in the restructure. So to answer your question, all 29 councillors, it'll actually, I'm hoping it'll be 31 by the time it gets to June. And each council has a voting rights member, but then it also has the effect that that puts pressure on who will be on the Lawmac executive and who would be part of those 6 councillors. And that is where I would like to be the president to get these last areas of Lawmac in place, because it could very well be, you know, we could have 3 members from Central Queensland on the executive. It might be that we have no representatives on that, and that's the concern. I know the current executive would probably be elected from the floor without any opposition.
Peter, did you have something further on that?
Yeah, look, I just want to explain that exactly how Councillor Fisher explained it. It is, you are effectively nominating councillors to be on this association, and you would effectively, I'm not going to talk about the request about the chair getting on, but those 2 councillors come the AGM are just then all at a level playing field, and the members decide who is on the management committee. So that management committee is effectively the executive committee of this organisation, which is right, as Councillor Fisher said, it has 6 councillors, 3 officers. So in effect, you're putting 2 nominations to Lawmac, and the Lawmac decides in June who will be on that management committee. So does that make sense?
Yep. So the voting rights are only good for an AGM? Is that every meeting?
Yeah.
But then it's the only people then that vote are the executive? No?
All players vote. It's just when the executive is meeting, that is another meeting where there is not the other 30 councils. You've got it's a management committee, and they're meeting more regularly and making decisions, and it's members. So it's the members, I'll call them the members, are deciding who they want as their management committee, and that is in place for 2 years, if I remember the Constitution. And every 2 years, all councils decide who is on this management committee.
Only one per council has the vote.
And there's only one vote, yeah. You're nominating 2, so one will have a vote and one won't.
So, Councillor Fisher, if you were to remain on there, how does Councillor Latcham raise his profile to get support into the future?
It's probably, it is actually working with the councillors. So the profile, and I know, to go back, I've actually been going to Lawmac meetings. My first one was actually in the early 2000s. And it is a matter of just getting to know the other members. It is working on some of the subcommittees, and before I became on the executive, I was on some of these subcommittees that we would almost be like a technical group reporting back and working with the other local governments within Lormac. So it does take a while, and it's something that there is probably some parochial, Central Queensland, the Rockhampton, Mackay, Townsville, Cairns. There are those various sort of parochial groups of something that I found in the early days that we had to work harder to be from Rockhampton and Central Queensland than if you were from Cairns, where the group had started. Previous executives, some of them there had the 8 councillors, 6 would be from far north Queensland, and that was quite the case. It's been just in recent times that there's that acceptance that those from other parts of Queensland can actually contribute really well. And some of the areas that we have achieved is actually having a variety of members on the executive from all parts of Queensland. There is probably management committee needs to be maybe some adjusting. I have to admit, I think this would be better. A future management committee states the different rocks and a member from each of those rocks. This is not the case at the moment, so it could, and more than likely, we would not have a vote at the table on this critical time of structuring Lormac to be the voice for regional Queensland, which would be the ultimate goal.
Councillor Oren.
Through the chair, I'm not quite understanding the voice. If there's 29 councillors and they all get a vote, what is the voice? I'm assuming everyone gets to put ideas forward, everyone gets to table them at chair, so the voice essentially is the vote. So, and to the committee meetings that you have, are there major things voted on there that are different to the full committees? Like, would they be brought to a committee, or do you make major votes when you just have the committee meetings?
Everything that the management committee discussed goes back to the next Lormac meeting, so that everybody does have a vote for that. But when dealing with senior members of the state government, so we have now right through to Director Generals are actually attending meetings. Senior and Deputy Director Generals are actually coming to our meetings, but to have the ability to talk to the Minister and to literally have the Minister or Director Generals to discuss policy before it's gone to Parliament, to actually seek our advice. That is the Management Committee, and that's where I feel we've still got strategic importance to actually even perfect that over the next few years with Lormac.
Thank you.
Councillor Wickerson and Councillor Mathers.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Probably just some comments, I think. Want to start by acknowledging the breadth and wealth of experience that Councillor Fisher's got, and also the achievements that, as Chair, you've achieved. I know that our senior staff are all highly commendable of your experience. But going back, when you first started with LawMac, were you Chair of Waste at that time when you first became involved with LawMac? Is that you're in?
No, actually, I started probably even different than that. LawMac wasn't recognised by council. And the Rockhampton region, and in fact, the Mackay, Whitsunday and the Central Queensland region weren't even on LawMac's radar. It was something that was an initiative I took myself. And so, no, to start off with, I was actually, this was something that I undertook myself. And that was in the early 2000s. I think it was 2002 was the first meeting I attended. But if saying that do you have to be the Chair of Waste, actually the executive at the moment, more than half the executive are not the Chairman of Waste or not the waste policy portfolio. They are actually in other areas, and I think that has been the strength. Having Brett Muller and that legal background, and that has been an asset to the LawMac executive. Having Belinda Hassan as the treasurer, bringing that community skills that she brings from her portfolio was very good. Actually, Sean Dillon as mayor of Barcaldine brought a whole, the mayors actually sometimes can be an asset on some of these communities because they bring experience as well. So in saying, are the executive all from waste portfolios? No, it actually, at the moment, or the current executive until the AGM, it's probably Ross Cook, who has not been re-elected, was the Chair of Waste and Infrastructure. Then Ross Logan from Cookshire, his background was actually, he actually was the manager of the Cooktown landfill before he was elected. So yeah, those backgrounds are quite interesting, but it's not necessarily you bring just waste portfolios. It's an interest in waste is what they say. And like everybody there, it's also how you believe that we should be moving in a zero waste future, as well as keeping the eye that this is post carbon neutral future of where we take, which is one of our biggest emitters, how we take that and turn that into a benefit in our future. And this is where a LawMac executive with a variety is actually quite beneficial.
No, thanks, Councillor. But just to finish off, Mayor, the Secretary of LawMac sent through an email and it says this position is normally your waste portfolio councillor or another elected member, but they lead in with normally it is. Going back to when I started off and was the chair or spokesperson for environment and sustainability, and I understand that the desire and the relationships you build up with all these other groups you're involved with, but when that changed and my successor took on environment and sustainability, well, that councillor then became on that board, possibly for a while, because you do build up a base of knowledge. So probably for a while my successor didn't have that same level, but there's only one way to get that, and that's by being in the hot seat. I know Councillor Latcham has proved his diligence with that, attending all these meetings as just an attendee or an observer, which must be difficult to do when you're in the portfolio. but also undertaking the extra study. And I've tried to start some study, and it's difficult to balance it all, so congratulations on that, and I imagine that's going well. So I think it might be time to pass on the baton, and I think it's just logical that whoever's the portfolio spokesperson, even though we may well step back a little bit with losing your knowledge, I think the only way to get that moving forward is to pass the baton on. So that's just my thoughts.
Councillor Mathers.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. Through you to two questions, Councillor Fisher, and then also to Councillor Latcham. So if we could just clarify that question that Councillor Wickerson asked, which was, what portfolio did you hold when you started with Lawmac? Because you said it was back in 2000, but what portfolio did you have?
I actually had, it was regulatory services at that stage, which did include waste.
Did include waste. Okay, thanks very much for that. Next question, Mr Mayor, is Councillor Latcham, if you were to get the voting opportunity, what are your plans to do? Will you just maintain being that, or would you, if you had the opportunity, would you throw your hat in the ring and try to get on to the executive?
Thanks, Councillor Mathers. Yes, I never had the opportunity to get on the executive committee, and that would be one of my key targets. I do believe I've got the relationships with everyone at Lawmac. I've got solid relationships there, and I'm sure they would want to have representation from Rockhampton region. We're one of the leaders in that area.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. Just one other thing, because that's my concern is, even if Councillor Fisher is saying that he consider stepping down after 2 years, we're still back to square one at that point, with you having to have voting rights and trying to get onto the executive anyhow.
Councillor Latcham.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just to clarify what Peter said just before, so as far as I know, to the best of my knowledge, all the other councils only had one representative. We happen to have an assistant portfolio chair, and for that reason we had 2 people attending Lawmac. But for all the others, as far as I'm aware, they only had one representative. Only one person has the voting rights, and they're the representative of that council. So that's a point of difference there. And the second part is, thank you, Councillor Wickerson. Yes, I've only got 3 parts of the assessment left of my Certificate 4 in Waste Management. So yes, I've committed to learning more about it.
Okay, councillors, we need, resume standing orders. I'm happy to move, seek a seconder. Seconded, Councillor Mathers. Put that, those in favour. Opposed, motion is carried unanimously. Councillors, we're at where we're at, so can I have somebody move that we appoint?
Mr Mayor, the original intent was for myself there, so if we can put that, and if that doesn't get up, then obviously we look at other alternative managers, if that's okay.
Okay, councillors, can I have a mover and a seconder with regards to that move? Councillor Mathers, seconded. Councillor Wickerson. I'll put that, those in favour. Motion's carried. Thank you. Okay, councillors, we move on to our next item. Thank you, councillors, for that, for their patience during that. Report. Sorry, I've lost me standing there. We'll move on to 11.8, the appointments to Council Audit and Business Improvement Committee. Councillor Latcham, you're keen to continue in that role?
Happy to continue, Mr Mayor.
Councillors, we're looking for a second nomination.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to nominate Councillor Grant Mathers if he's okay with that.
Councillor Mathers, you accept that?
Mr Mayor, I think it would be a good opportunity to look at the workings behind the scenes within council, and it's probably a way to extend my knowledge within council. So yeah, I'd be happy to accept that.
Okay, councillor, there wasn't anyone else interested? If not, we've got a couple of takers, and I'll thank you, councillors, for that. It is an important role, and one there that you do get a better understanding of the organisation, operations, and risks and opportunities. Councillor, if no further questions on that one, I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Sorry, it was moved by Councillor Latcham, seconded by Councillor Taylor. Sorry, well, we might have had a second. It might have been my bad. Again, I'll put that, councillor, because of that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Councillor Taylor. Sorry. Linda. expense reimbursement and provisions for facilities for the Mayor and Councillors policy. Thank you, Ross.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Put this policy, the track changes one was attached there to show the change, a few minor changes. The vehicle allowances have been updated to the current market, I guess you could say. I do believe there could be a suggestion to a change in the travel expenses, 5.1.3. There may be a minor suggested change recommended there.
Yes, councillors, if I could, sorry Ross, just on that one, the 5.1.3, the travel expenses, the B where it's for councils excluding the Mayor, I'd like to make that and the Deputy Mayor as well. My ambition is to take on a greater role in other bodies to represent our region going forward, and I will need the Deputy Mayor. I'll be relying heavily on the Deputy Mayor to step into that position. Sorry, Ross?
Through Mayor, because some suggested words to add
okay,
to this recommendation.
It's just if there's other outside the policy and extending that to the Deputy Mayor's role. Councillor Latcham.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Through to Ross. 5.3.2.1, the vehicle allowance.
Yep.
It's been suggested to be $45,000 exclusive of GST and whatever's else there. Having compared a vehicle that was purchased in 2020, Subarus, compared to the value of it now, a similar one, that's closer to $47,000. So I'd like to make an amendment, move an amendment to change that to $47,000 excluding GST. Everything else that's written there, based on that's the data that I've received.
Yep, like that.
Sorry, I wasn't clear on that one.
$47,000 instead of $45,000.
Okay. Sorry,
5.3.2.1.
And Councillor, sorry, what was the figure? Councillor Mathers.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, can you just clarify, if you wouldn't mind, the amendment that you've made, which is the expense reimbursements and provisions of facilities for Mayor and councillors?
The policy.
Sorry? Isn't that the one that you wanted to change to include the deputy in? No? Have I got that wrong?
It's 5.1.3. And item B, where it says outside the CQ Rock local government areas, purpose of travel is connected to the fulfilling. It's a similar with the
sorry,
having to put a motion every time you're out of the CQ Rock area.
Okay, I see that, the 5.1.3.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And that just for that purpose, though, with the role and my intentions to step up another level, a bit wider, subject to again being nominated and being on those extra groups. Councillor Wickerson.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Can I propose an amendment as well? This is 5.3.1.1. It's to do with office space and access to meeting rooms. I think a previous iteration of this policy had office space within City Hall for Deputy Mayor as well. In light of what you were saying earlier about being available to rapidly step up and attend meetings at short notice, it'd make it much more efficient if I was in this building. I'm trialling it at the moment. I'm happy to continue trialling it to see that it is working efficiently. So I've got at the moment space out the back near the staff kitchen, which is working okay for now. But and I don't want to get into the nuts and bolts of where and whatever, but just to have a presence in City Hall, just to formalise it and put it back into the policy. I think it was in there previously.
CEO.
It was, through the chair, was previously in there 2 terms ago, Mr Mayor, but yeah, we can certainly do that.
And that's, just to be clear, that's not binding, so if a future deputy chooses not to, it doesn't lock you into it, it's just that it's available. I know space is at a premium, but to find a desk somewhere.
Look, I'd even use the Mayor's office in times that as well, Councillor. I think there's opportunities if I'm not there that that could be used as well. Councillor Fisher?
I actually support this idea. It was actually the previous mayor that changed it, and Joe, I was basically to have to work from home. I don't know, Councillor Rutherford had that.
Councillor Rutherford?
It wasn't the previous mayor, it was me that gave it up.
Okay.
Because that's when Damon was appointed the new position.
Oh, needed an office
the
space.
Executive
Yeah.
to the mayor, and he needed to be close, or whatever that position needed to be close to the mayor. So it just made sense to give up that office.
Councillor, I don't see this
Yeah,
as a big issue. I think it's there's hot desks around and spaces that we can use from that space. But even like I say, my office, if that's warranted at those times when I'm not around as well. Okay, councillors.
Just further comment, I think that's a really good idea. I know that I was working from home and scooting between the two places, but definitely the last mayor said, no, you're not. So,
I see Marnie looking over. It is, yeah. Okay, councillor, if there are no other alterations to that one, I'm happy to move as officer's recommendation. Seek a seconder. Councillor Latcham, I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item 12. Item 12.1, notice of motion for Councillor Fisher, travel to the Bowen Basin Mining Luncheon. Councillor Fisher will be granted that one, a retrospective approval. Happy to move. Seek a seconder. Deputy Mayor Councillor Wickerson. I moved and Councillor Wickerson second. Put that. Those in favour? Opposed? The motion's carried. Thank you. And we had an urgent business item, Ross. Councillors, the Mayor's Cup request again with the oversight in this one. We're looking for retrospective approval for this event for that's just passed. Again, looking with the caretaker period, it was officers hadn't had the opportunity to bring a report to the table, so we're looking for approval for that. Better not move it, or I'll seek someone else to move, but this is for this event that we've just had. Happy to talk about others in the future if that's something we can do in workshops. Happy to move. Councillor Taylor, did you have a question?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just wondering, that it was a lovely day out, but whether that is the best investment for council for that. I know that it's a tradition, and I appreciate that.
Yep.
And it's good to support the Rockhampton Jockey Club. Just whether there could be more opportunities for money to be invested for your own promotion and council promotion, and potentially charity fundraisers.
Yeah, and that's probably not what this one's about. It's about the racing industry and what that contributes to the region. It's over $2.2 billion, and that goes towards the state economy, and it's we seem to do a lot in the cattle space with sponsorship, and this is very a small area for the equine horse industry. Happy to talk in workshops going forward, but this is more about that event that's just gone rather than future events.
Fantastic, thank you.
Happy to take that on board, Councillor Taylor. Move Councillor Wickerson. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Oram. Sorry, Ross. Any further questions to that? If not, I'll put it. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Councillors, that brings us to the end of our agenda items for our first council meeting for the start of this term. Can I thank the officers for their reports and all the councillors for your participation, and I'll close the meeting. Thank you.